every Nightmare Throne target reviewed. Go. Go! Welcome back to this series that I don't do nearly enough for how much demand there is for it, because literally anytime a card searches anything, people tag me in it and ask me when I'm reviewing every target. You're never getting that Goblin video. Nightmare Throne is a new field spell card from Legacy of Destruction that takes any fiend monster with 0 attack and 0 defense from your deck and either adds it to hand or destroys it. This is great for the Yubel archetype because their best starters in Samsara and Dark Beckoning Beast are 0/0 attack, as well as all of their names, all of the Yubels, so you can destroy them from deck to float into the next incarnation up. But it's also great because we're going to be able to look at these cards on 2 different axes. We're going to be able to judge these cards based on if they're good to add to hand and if they're good to destroy from deck. That kind of doubles the use cases for each card, but I'm sure we're still going to find only 3 or 4 that are actually any good because that's just how it goes here. The intended target is the good one. Every day, every time. I feel like we should do the Yubels in reverse order, even though we line them up all pretty like this. Spirit of Yubel. Cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no damage from battles involving this card. If this card is destroyed, you can special summon one of your Yubel that is banished in your hand, deck, or graveyard. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is special summoned, you can add to your hand or set one spell or trap from your deck that mentions Yubel. So this one is, of course, intended target. Boo. But yeah, there's like a lot of different ways you can use this card in conjunction with Nightmare Throne. Destroying it from deck puts Yubel on board right then and there, so then you're free to normal summon a fiend and make Yama or something of that nature. And then you have the spirit in graveyard, so you can reborn it with either Squirm or opening of the spirit gates. But also adding it to hand will come up sometimes where, like, if you have spirit gates on board, you can add it to hand, pitch it, and then summon the spirit that you just pitched. And on top of that, maybe you just want it for the Battle Fader effect. You ever think about that? It literally can come up. Like, Nightmare Pain, forcing your opponent to attack into your Yubels, can, like, pretty much force your opponent to OTK themselves if they fuck up and don't think about that. But also it just protects, like, your interruptions like Apollo and Soul of Rage from being killed. It's a pretty relevant Battle Fader effect, I would say. Yubel can't be destroyed by battle. You take no battle damage from battles involving this card. If this card was attacked by an opponent's monster while it was in face-up attack position, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's attack. During your end phase, tribute one other monster or destroy this card. When this card is destroyed, except by its own effect, its owner can summon one Yubel Terran card from hand, deck, or graveyard. Yeah, so you pretty much never want this in hand, but it could come up that you want to pop this from deck to summon Terra Incarnate rather than popping Spirit from deck to summon Yubel itself. Maybe if you already have a Spirit in hand or something of that nature. Either way, the use case is really dwindling one rung up the ladder. Terra Incarnate cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by Yubel. This card cannot be destroyed by battle. You take no battle damage from battles along with this card. Before damage calculation, when this face-up attack position card is attacked, inflict damage to your opponent equal to that monster's attack. During your end phase, destroy all other monsters on the field, and when this face-up card leaves the field, you can special summon the ultimate nightmare from hand, deck, or graveyard. How many of you knew that this has to leave the field to trigger? Not a lot of people realize this. They think it's just got the same effect, so you can pop it from deck and summon Ultimate Nightmare. But no, it's gotta be on the board. And furthermore, it's a when, so you can't just link it off to trigger it. That would be broken. If you link off Terra Incarnate, it misses timing. Folks, that's also like part of why Nightmare Throne's second effect works the way it does. Like, you'd think, what's the point of summoning a Yubel 1 level higher when Terra Incarnate's gonna do that anyway? It's so that you can use Terra Incarnate's effect even if it misses timing. It's for more reasons than that, but like, that's also part of it. Ultimate Nightmare must be special summoned by Terra Incarnate. This card cannot be destroyed by battle. You take no battle damage from battles involving this card. At the end of the damage step, if this face-up attack is in card, battles an opponent's monster, inflict damage equal to that monster's attack to your opponent, also destroy that monster. Yes, this is just like the final form of the dwindling use cases of using Nightmare Throne on the actual Yubels. You have no reason to add this to hand. This does nothing when it's destroyed in any manner. Really, you just don't even play this in modern Yubel. It's even arguable whether or not you play Terra Incarnate, especially after Phantom comes out. We've been like beating around the bush in regards to Phantom so far because I kind of want this to be relevant to a post-Legacy of Destruction format, and we have no idea when Phantom's coming out, so that's a pretty pretty taboo subject in my opinion. But it is just completely true that once we have Phantom, you can just go Nightmare Throne, pop Spirit, summon Yubel, shuffle both of these back into the deck, and summon Phantom, and then you just have an early monster negate. And that's an interesting thing, is that because one of Phantom's materials, just any 0/0 Fiend, literally all of these are valid materials for Phantom of Yubel. So we're not gonna mention that too much, but that is a true fact about literally all of them. I don't know, maybe one of them says can't be used as fusion material, and we'll remark on that then. I haven't pre-read any of these, so I have no idea what the fuck they do. Go! DTD Divine Zero King Rage. Alright, this is a pendulum monster, and it's got like 20 effects. Let's get into this shit. Every effect of Zero King Rage, go. If you would take effect damage, you take no damage. That's such a funny way of wording it. I don't know what it is. If you normal summon a level 5 or higher DD monster, you can do it without tributing. Monster effect, when this card declares an attack, if your opponent's life point is 4,000 or less, you can make this card gain attack equal to your opponent's life points. Cannot be destroyed by battle, you take no damage from battles involving this card. You contribute one other monster, apply one of these effects. This card can attack directly, your opponent cannot activate the effects of cards that are in a spell or trap zone, or your opponent cannot activate the effects of cards that are in their hand or graveyard. So the scale effect, I guess, protects you from time cards? And the monster effect seems to be indicating that it wants to attack your opponent directly and them to lose immediately. But they chickened out and made it only work if your opponent is already half dead. And then the tribute effect makes it so that you either ignore your opponent's monsters, ignore their back row, or ignore their hand traps and like graveyard effects. But not all of them at once. With AFD, you contribute an opponent's monster. That is true. You could get Lair of Darkness off AFD by popping the Nightmare Throne. Okay. No, you know what? I see the vision. DDD Savant Galilei. How many fucking pendulum monsters is this gonna be? Once per turn during your standby phase, increase this card's pendulum scale by 2, then destroy all monsters you control with a level less than or equal to this card's pendulum scale, except DDD monsters. Okay, so if you get this up to the maximum scale of 10, you can use this to pop your own Yubels. All it'll take is 4.5 turn. Can you even use this effect to get it up to 10? It has to do 2 at a time, right? So once you get to 9, then like, can't you just not even do it anymore? It'll just cap at 10. So it can resolve half of the scale increase. I feel like I need a source on that. I don't know that I believe you. I'll accept, dude, trust me. But okay, it does work. See, I would have believed you if you had just said, dude, trust me, though. So you didn't need to do all that. During either player's turn, you can discard this card, then target one DD or Dark Contract card you control, return it to the hand. So this second effect appears to just be another one of DDD's ways to get around paying for its contracts. I guess this effect is maybe like a little relevant. I was about to say if you're playing like the Requiem package, but Requiem already outs your Dark Contract, so you really don't care about that at all. Emperor Maju Garzette. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by tributing 3 monsters. This card's attack becomes the combined original attack of the tributed monsters. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects during the battle phase. I feel like it's unwise to play an OTK enabler that requires you to already have big monsters on the field in the deck of monsters with no attack. I do think it is funny that the anime Ra attack gain effect was just cut from the actual Winged Dragon of Ra and given to this random guy. Legendary Maju Garzette. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by tributing all monsters you control. This card's attack becomes the combined original attack of the tributed monsters. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. Okay, so it went to this guy first, but he has like a much wider range in which he can gain attack from, because he's not just tributing 3, he's coming for the whole pot. I guess both of these can kind of like fill the niche of like, if you have like a bunch of monsters on board that like you want to get in the graveyard, but you don't want to link them off, then you can just like tell them to fuck off with the Garzettes. In which case I think like Legendary is better, because he only needs 1. Right? So if you only have 1, he'll only tribute 1. I like Legendary because he's more committed, but at the same time, he's still a little more chill, right? Like Emperor is very rigid. Like he's like, it needs to be 3. I'm not gonna take any more, but I also won't accept less. Now Legendary, He's like, I'll just take whatever you got. Frightfur Meister. Every time I see this thing, I feel like it's a higher level. I swear when I first read this card, it was like a level 2. You contribute a level 4 or lower Frightfur, Fluffle, or Edge-Imp monster. Special summon from your deck one Fiend monster with the same level but with a different name. I remember for a while, like, Skyhawk was using this as a way to, like, summon the Dark Barrier statue in Fluffle. Yeah, the other thing that you could do with it is summon Lilith and then get Necrofusion. And Necrofusion is such an important part of Giant Skyhawk's culture that he made an entire Discord surrounding it. During your main phase, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Frightfur, Fluffle, or Edge-Imp monster from your deck. Also, you cannot special summon from the extra deck for the rest of this turn except fusions. You contribute 2 or more Fiend monsters, special summon one Frightfur fusion monster from your extra deck whose level equals the combined original level of those monsters. Folks, it's 2024. You can synchro summon fusion monsters. He's not even like very good at doing this, right? Because most of the Frightfurs are like level 8 or lower. You want to be able to tribute himself for this purpose. But the only applicable things you can summon by using him and a second monster are Mary and Cruel Whale. Is this treated as a fusion summon? Probably not, right? It is treated as a fusion summon. All right, okay, wait a minute. I see the vision. So you summon Meister with, like, let's say, like you just summon it with Squirmer, right? That's an easy way to summon him. And then you tribute him and Lotus, and then you get to summon Cruel Whale. This is the easiest way to pop a card on the field. Savant Newton. Once while this card is in your pendulum zone, you can negate an activated trap that would inflict damage to you, then destroy this card. Finally, a way to beat Secret Barrel. You can discard this card, then target one DD or Dark Contract card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Okay, that's like decent recursion. See, like Requiem pops the Dark Contract, so it gets it in the graveyard for Newton. But then the other thing it does is it gives Machinex an effect that then shuffles the Dark Contract back in the deck, so it's not there anymore. It ain't staying there for long. Supreme King Gate Infinity. Gay Infinity. That's not funny, but that's really funny. If you control a monster, you cannot pendulum summon. Once per turn, if you control Supreme King Zark, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls, gain life points equal to its attack. Once per turn, you can target one other face-up card you control, destroy both it and this card, and if you do, special summon one Dragon, Xyz, or Pendulum monster from your extra deck, but its attack and defense becomes 0, its effects are negated, cannot be used as material for a Synchro or Xyz summon. If this card in the monster is destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. Alright, so here's the plan. Somehow summon Zark. I don't know how, but we're gonna do it. Summon Zark, give your opponent something, and then you gain life points and you win in time. Zark just a trap away. Now that's the problem though, is if you use the Zark trap, you pay like half your life points. Phantasmal Summoning Beast. You contribute this card, add one Uriah, Haman, or Rabiel from your deck or graveyard to your hand. Then you can special summon a level 10 Pyro, Thunder, or Fiend from your hand, whose attack equals its defense. You can banish this card from your graveyard, add one Dimension Fusion Destruction from your deck to your hand. Alright, so pretty simple card, all things considered. It just tributes itself to search one of these sacred beasts and then can summon it immediately. But the other thing you can do is because Yubel is a level 10 fiend, that counts for the summoning requirements. So if you just play one of the sacred beasts, you can search it and then use the summon on a Yubel that already exists in your hand. So that's a way to like get like Spirit of Yubel out of your hand, use that effect. But now hear me out. We could search Haman, tribute off a bunch of our spell cards, because Yubel has like 15 continuous spells, tribute all those for Haman, and then activate Cerulean Skyfire, baby. We're not getting super power. We're staying right here. Our monsters will not be fused away today, ladies and gentlemen. The Mirror Breaker. It is actually, so I refer to this variety of card as a Violet Chimera, because its existence is supposed to be like a buff to the deck, but instead just makes it lose so fucking hard to super poly it's impossible. And that's like another thing that Phantom does, is that Phantom can't be used as fusion material, so it's the first Yubel that you can end on without your entire board being like just flammable. Just volatile. Just impossible to not break. Supreme King Gate 0. If you control Zark, you take no damage. Once per turn, if you have Supreme King Gate Infinity or other Pendulum Zone, you can destroy both cards in your Pendulum Zone, and if you do, add one Polymerization spell or Fusion spell from your deck to your hand. Just what Yubel needed. A way to search Super Poly.
What am I, chopped liver?
No, that's what I am.
Once per turn, you target one other face-up card you control, destroy both it and this card, and if you do, special summon one Dragon, Fusion, or Synchro monster from your extra deck, but its attack and defense becomes 0, its effects are negated, cannot be used as material for a Synchro or Xyz summon. If this card in the monster zone is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can place this card in your Pendulum Zone. What I'm noticing about both Infinity and 0 is that the monster they summon can, of course, be used for link material, which, of course it can. Links didn't exist when these were printed. Or more accurately, they were literally just about to exist. These couldn't be future-proofed to avoid spoiling future product, even though they totally knew that that was like a consideration to make. Puppet Master. Yes. He's so masterful with his puppets. When this card is tribute summoned, you can pay 2,000 life points to target 2 fiend monsters in your graveyard, special summon those targets, but they cannot attack this turn. This card's actually not that bad, because what you can do is you could tribute over the Dark Beckoning Beast, which gives you the extra normal for this, and then, like, if you have, like, a Squirmer already in graveyard, or a Yubel, like, if that's already in there, you can summon back the Beckoning Beast and a second Fiend. The problem is that you pretty much need exactly Dark Beckoning Beast, and even then, Beckoning Beast itself doesn't get you enough material in graveyard to fully resolve this. So at that point, it's like a 3 or 4 card combo to really do nothing. Just, I mean, if you think about it though, it summons 2 monsters. That's basically Flamberge Dragon, which is a bad card, no matter what Peeps YGO tells you. Great Maju Garzette. The attack of this card becomes twice the original attack of one monster that you tributed for the tribute summon of this card. So on the off chance that this thing becomes a level 7 in your hand and you need to tribute 2, he still just picks one of them to get the attack of. That means it's literally just in case. Just in case he somehow becomes a level 7. Just in case. You never know. This is easily the worst Maju Garzette yet, literally just because it doesn't special summon itself. However, he does take the least tributes, theoretically, because, you know, Legendary still he just takes what he can get. If you only got one, he'll take one. Dark Summoning Beast. You can tribute this card, special summon one Uriah, Hamon, or Rabiel from your hand or deck, ignoring their summoning conditions. Also, monster you control cannot attack for the rest of this turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard, add one Uriah, Hamon, or Rabiel from your deck to your hand. So this, of course, is the original intention of Dark Beckoning Beast. You were supposed to go Dark Beckoning Beast to search Opening, and then Opening to search Dark Summoning Beast, who then could summon one of the Sacred Beasts and get you about halfway there to the second Sacred Beast. We are in the market to see if we can find a way to weave Hamon into this deck somehow, because I want that Cerulean Skyfire. Our board is so fragile to Super Poly, you can't even imagine it. I'm getting Hamon on this board if it fucking kills me. We'll keep your application in mind, Dark Summoning Beast. Don't go anywhere. Dino Sowing. Cannot be destroyed by battle, just like Yubel. If this card is targeted for an attack, this card gains 1,000 attack and defense. If this card attacked after damage calculation, the attack and defense gained from this effect returns to 0. So this card would be good if it was named Yubel, right? Because if it was Yubel, the Nightmare Pain would force your opponent to attack it, and therefore they have to give it a whole shit ton of attack so you can kill them on the crackback with it. But once this thing is face up in any capacity, they're just not gonna do it. They're just not gonna attack. Is Dino Sowing supposed to be a pun? It's like Dino Sow. Phantom of Chaos. Your opponent takes no battle damage from attacks involving this card. Once per turn, you can target one effect monster in your graveyard, banish that target, and if you do, until the end phase, this card's name and original attack become that monster's name and original attack, and replace this effect with that monster's original name. So this one has something that Dino Sowing doesn't have. It can be named Yubel. If we just smush these two together, then maybe we can work with that, right? Phantom of Chaos, of course, known for some very, how shall we say, unpleasant old school combos that involved looping effects, as well as just being able to, like, play another copy of Dark Arm Dragon once you ran out of them. Now, in Yubel, I want to say this couldn't be that bad, but also most of like the options I'm thinking of are like on summon effects. Like copying Spirit doesn't really do anything. Copying Beckoning Beast doesn't really work. What you could do is you could target Lotus in graveyard, copy that, and then tribute this so that you can summon Yubel from deck. That's like not that bad. Umbral Horror Unformed. The fuck is this guy? Look at him. He's just like a brick. He's just a solid block of whatever the fuck. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard while attacking a monster, you can special summon 2 Umbral Horror monsters from your deck. So this isn't even like a float. This isn't even like just a battle floater. He has to swing into something, die, and then he summons 2 Umbral Horrors. It can be the other 2 copies of himself though. So I guess you can swing in, summon 2 more Unform, and then main phase 2 make Yama. This is the easiest way to make Yama. But hey, you can also make Exciton Knight. Eh? That doing anything for you? DD Savant Copernicus. Once while this card is in your pendulum zone, you can negate an activated spell effect that would inflict damage to you, then destroy this card. Yes! The Sparks counter! If this card is normal or special summon, you can send 1 DD or Dark Contract card from your deck to the graveyard, except DD Savant Copernicus. So I guess I'll talk about this a little bit more when we get to Kepler, who is like a better starter for DD. But there has actually been some talk of playing Nightmare Throne as just like a searcher for your 2 best normal summons in DD, as well as a couple other DD cards that maybe aren't your best normal summons. But yeah, Nightmare Throne definitely going to be like an actual consideration for DD decks if, you know, you choose to play them, even though they're a little bit past their prime. Ogre of the Scarlet Sorrow. During your opponent's turn, when your opponent declares a second direct attack during the same battle phase, you can special summon this card from your hand. When you do, this card's attack and defense becomes equal to the attack and defense of the first monster that attacked directly this turn. If it is still face up on the field. The turn this card is special summoned with this effect, your opponent cannot select monsters other than this card as an attack target while this card is face up on the field. You know Battle Fader is also a 0/0 fiend. You're just wasting your breath, bro. Chaos Core. When either player activates a card or effect that targets this card, or when your opponent's monster targets it for an attack, quick effect, you can send up to 1 each of Uriah, Hamon, and Raviel from your hand or deck to the graveyard, and if you do, place 1 Phantasm counter on this card for each card sent to the graveyard. And if you place at least 1, you take no battle damage this turn. If this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can remove 1 Phantasm counter from this card instead. So the main thing people were trying to do with this card when Sacred Beast was briefly experimented with in 2020 was you could normal Beckoning Beast, get to Chaos Core through opening, and then use your extra normal on the Chaos Core, make Beckoning Beast into All Mirage, and then All Mirage just gives you a free way to target Chaos Core, who then mills all your Sacred Beasts, setting up the Fusion spell. Because Dimension Fusion Destruction does banish the material from graveyard, so as long as you get that to hand somehow, like through Phantasmal Summoning Beast as an example, you can use Chaos Core to get all the material in your graveyard and then get to like Armatile or something. If your goal is to summon Armatile, then yes, this is a pretty good way of getting all the pieces together. But there isn't really a 1-card line for it, so it's a little off. Mimicuril. During your main phase, you can excavate the top card of your deck, and if it is a monster, special summon it. And if you do, place this card on the bottom of the deck. If it wasn't a monster or couldn't be special summoned, place it on the bottom of the deck. Place the monster special summoned by this effect on the bottom of the deck during the end phase. You know, that's one way to get to Spirit of Yubel, is just rip it off the top. Like, just get it twisted. You will win. Literally, why would you normal summon Lotus when you could just normal summon this and then just rip it off the top? Like, just, come on. Don't be a loser, you know? You will win. You will not hit the Terror Incarnate. Cap Shell. No cap? You'd only use 1 of these effects, and only once per turn. If this card is tributed, draw a card. If this card is used material for a fusion, synchro, or link summon, draw a card. If this card is detached from an Xyz monster to activate that monster's effect, draw a card. So I haven't seen any lines that involve searching this with Nightmare Throne, but I have seen it played in combos that involve Nightmare Throne by using Dark Beckoning Beast as like the normal summon and then getting into Gigantic Sprite, and then Gigantic Sprite can summon Cap Shell from deck. I need to test a little bit more with like the Sprite angle of Yubel combos that I've seen. Those were kind of like day 1 and didn't see that much success, but I do want to like look into it because I do think Cap Shell's ability to draw you into more non-engine is nothing to shake a stick at. But the real big money move is to activate Nightmare Throne, get Cap Shell, normal summon it, and make Almirage. The nature of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is such that every now and then someone reinvents Upstart Goblin. Tricorn, the Cacophonous Concert. If a monster in your possession is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target one monster from your graveyard with both the same type and attribute as a monster you control. Add that monster to your hand. This card is actually like super interesting. We haven't seen too much experimentation with it yet because it's a TCG exclusive, but yeah, you can use this like when one of your Yubels is popped to summon itself, and then is there even a good level 12 synchro in this day and age? I guess like what you could do is you can use Tricorn plus Spirit to make Crimson Dragon, Squirmer back the Tricorn, then Tricorn plus the other Yubel to make Legadia. That kind of bummed me out, you know? Like, I start talking about, like, an interesting card, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's so cool, you can... Calamity. But at least it's bad at making Calamity. At least it's bad, at least it's not any good at it. It's probably much more of a consideration in, like, a build that leans toward Unchained, where you can synchro it with Sharvara and Shyama to make like Groza. That is true. It does have the ability to add itself back if you link it off for a Dark Fiend. So you can make Muckraker with it, and then it will serve as the discard for Muckraker. I think Muckraker sucks though. I think everyone's ignoring the fact that Muckraker is fucking garbage. Dark Beckoning Beast. We've been talking about this guy a lot, and let me tell you, he is that good. He's just that good. I'm sorry. When this card is normal summon, you can add one Uriah, Haman, or Raviel, or one card that specifically lists any of those cards from your deck to your hand. And during your main phase, you can normal summon one Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense in addition to your normal summon or set. He's really worth all the hype, you know, just from the ability to give you an extra normal of really everything you see here, everything Yubel is want to play, but then also getting you Opening of the Spirit Gates, and then getting you a second Dark Beckoning Beast opens up so many options. You can normal summon the second Beckoning Beast to make Djinn Buster. That's something that saw a lot of play in Sprite. And then the opening effect to pitch a card to reborn a 0/0 Fiend not only lets you reborn anything that you've like linked off, but also lets you discard like a spirit from hand and then immediately summon back that spirit. Really just so many options that this engine opens up for Yubel, so to the point where it's already seeing play before it's searchable with Nightmare Throne. Like, we're already seeing TCG Yubel lists without Nightmare Throne playing Beckoning Beast because, you know, if you draw it, it's just that good. It just does so much for the deck. I think it's going to be really cool having even more consistent access to it in Legacy of Destruction format. Labyrinth Coup Clock. I'm not going to make a cuck joke, but I am going to allude to it in this sentence I'm currently saying. Quick effect, you can discard this card. This turn, you can activate one normal trap card that was set this turn if you control a Labyrinth monster. If a card is sent from your hand to the graveyard to activate your normal trap card or your Labyrinth card or effect, except Coup Clock, while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand or special summon it. Now, Labyrinth as a deck, I don't think needs consistent access to Coup Clock to the point where you would play Nightmare Throne in that deck. Maybe it's an option where you like slot in some Nightmare Throne to search Coup Clock, and then if you don't need the Coup Clock, then you'll get like Squirmer that you can summon for like, I don't know, some sort of link play. That seems a little cope to me, but if we want to consider Coup Clock in a Yubel deck, maybe like the best you can do is you can like play some level of a Labyrinth engine in like the larger Fiend Link pile. If you think about it for long enough, Ariana can search Lady, and then Lady can summon herself because you activated Ariana. So that's 2 link material. Chaos Necromancer. The attack of this card is the number of monster cards in your graveyard times 300. Oh, thank God, a break. Oh. Anyone read any good books lately? DZW Chimera Clad. Rare DZW. You can target one number C39 monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or your side of the field to that target. The equipped monster cannot be destroyed by battle. At the end of the damage step, when the equipped monster attacks an opponent's monster, but the opponent's monster was not destroyed by battle, you can make the opponent's monster's attack 0, and if you do, the equipped monster can make a second attack on the same monster in a row. Gonna be honest, whenever I run into a ZW in one of these videos, I don't even really think about what it actually does. I just take the time to make fun of it for a moment because I know how bad every ZW is. Notably, what Utopia needs the most is the ability to run over shit in battle. Thank you, Chimera Clad, for making battle easier to win. Really appreciate that. Red Mirror. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. Target one Fire Fiend monster in your graveyard, except Red Mirror, add it to your hand. If you synchro summon while this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand. Well, I guess this is a way to recur Soul Resonator. That's the thing though, is like, between this getting you Soul Resonator back, and then Soul Resonator synchro summoning to get this back, it's like an infinite loop. Now you have infinite grind game. At that point, you can literally like play forever and ever for 100 years. But how do we get the synchro monsters back in the extra deck? I'll get back to you on this one. Doom Donuts. Saz reference. Many people tell Saz that they did not know Doom Donuts was a card, and they thought that this was just a thing from the art of Fluffle Mouse, which it is not. It's not in the art of Fluffle Mouse. Saz photoshopped that in there for an interesting profile picture. They are two separate cards that he put together, but people only interact with either of them through him. Flip, destroy all face-up monsters on the field with an original attack or defense of 0. Now hold up, this seems bad in the deck of 0/0 monsters, but if you flip this up, you'll pop all your Yubels and then they'll all float. Think about it like that. Did you ever think about that, or did you just think about yourself? DD Savant Kepler. Once per turn during your standby phase, reduce this card's pendulum scale by 2, then destroy all monsters you control with a level greater than or equal to this card's pendulum scale. Wait a minute. Oh. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. Just resolving this effect one time will make it a level, even if you don't, like, it's already 10, so it's already equal to Yubel's level. So, but just resolving it one time will destroy all your Yubels. This is the easiest way to destroy Yubel. If this card is normal or special summon, you can activate one of these effects, target one DD card you control, return it to the hand, or add a Dark Contract card from your deck to your hand. Now, we've already talked a little bit about how this is definitely a consideration for DD. They definitely want to find Savant Kepler as often as possible, and Copernicus as well, just another option for them to go into. And I think that is kind of interesting, the way that, like, Nightmare Throne is just a very good search card for a second archetype. Like, it's not like locked to this one deck and then everything else is cope. I think it's pretty cool that there's a second deck that uses Nightmare Throne very well. But there also is the consideration that, like, having the ability to search Savant Kepler in Yubel, and then, like, Dark Contract can get you to Requiem, something we've already seen in Unchained, and that being an option to break boards going second because of the Requiem effect bequeathed to the Machinex, and then extend into like a Yama. I think that's definitely like an option to consider once we get into that flow state in which all of the Fiend support that Konami has printed just meshes into this one singular deck list. That's something we're gonna have to think about. It's probably at least a little bit cope to think we're going to be playing Savant Kepler, but I do think, like, the entire point of this series is to think a little bit more critically about every single possible option, and this is by far one of the better ones so far. No Chaos Necromancer, I'll tell you that. Bijam the Cubic Seed. Cannot be destroyed by battle. At the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can place this card face up in your spell and trap zones as a continuous spell, and if you do, place one cubic counter on that opponent's monster.
Is that some Hamon synergy I smell?
If this card is treated as a continuous spell by this effect, during your main phase, you can special summon this card from your spell and trap zone. I love how as though to flex on the Crystal Beasts, it puts itself in the spell and trap zone, and then it's like, yeah, I can get out whenever I want. I'm just chilling here. I'm just chilling here for a little bit. He's just hanging out in the back row. He doesn't gotta be there. The Crystal Beasts, they gotta stay there. He can leave whatever he wants. Goblin King. You're never getting that Goblin video. Never. While you control another Fiend monster, monsters cannot attack this card. This card's attack and defense become the number of other Fiend monsters on the field times 1,000. So that can get up to 5,000. That's not bad. That's like a pretty big guy. Obviously, you don't want to waste your normal on this. You don't want to waste your Squirmer summon on this. You don't want to waste your opening summon on this. But no, yeah, there's no but in that sentence. You don't want to summon this. Battle Fader. The one and only, the world's greatest, the king. I don't even need to read him. You know what he does. Unfortunately, this is just a worse version of Spirit of Yubel for this deck. And really, it's just a worse version of Spirit of Yubel, period. I think Spirit has, like, basically power crept Battle Fader, because it doesn't end the battle phase. but it can't be destroyed by battle, so they better think of some creative way to get over this. Because even if they pop it, it floats into Yubel. Unfortunately, your time has come and passed, my brother. May you live on in the halls of Valhalla for all eternity, where all the greatest warriors dick around. Infernal Grave Squirmer. I think this is a top 2 search target for Nightmare Throne. Top 1 in some respects. If you control a fiend monster, quick effect, special summon this card from your hand, then you can destroy one monster you control that is Yubel or mentions it. You can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon one fiend monster with 0 attack and defense from your hand or graveyard, except Infernal Grave Swarmer. No, yeah, just incredible support card for Yubel. I don't want to get too into it because I want to save some of the juicier bits for when we make the everything you need to know. I don't know if I'm gonna have the thumbnail, but imagine I'm pointing at it. Yeah, it's an extender you can grab with Nightmare Throne or Nightmare Pain. You can use it plus the Yubel to make Yama. Use the effect from graveyard to reborn a Yubel, pop that Yubel with the Sharvara you searched. Really just so much going for it. Lets you play through so much shit in Yubel. The effect to pop one of your Yubels on the resolution of its summon, that can block your opponent from negating your Spirit of Yubel with Imperm. That's really crazy. I sometimes, I feel like when I have this card in my hand, when I'm playing Yubel, I'm like, this is the best card in the deck. Like, no cap. I'll look at, Super Poly in that hand and I'll be like, this is a worse card than Infernal Grave Squirmer. And it's not close. Chaos Summoning Beast. You can tribute this card, special summon Uriah, Haman, or Raviel from your hand, and you can banish this card from your graveyard, add Fallen Paradise from your deck to your hand. Now, obviously not the best way to summon the beasts because you have to already have them in hand, which, I mean, you can get them there, like if you use Phantasmal to search one and then summon something different, or if you use the graveyard effect of Dark Summoning Beast, then that's a way to get one to hand. So it's not like there's no use case for it in terms of Sacred Beast, but the really crazy effect of the card is the ability to search Fallen Paradise, which protects your Sacred Beasts from being targeted or destroyed. That's really good. And then also draws you 2 cards every turn. Really, the draw 2 was the big part of Sacred Beast that made people interested in it as a sort of control deck, back when Eldritch was a thing, you could mix those two because Eldritch was also a 10, so it synergized with opening. So in my beautiful, perfect world where we get Haman onto this Yubel board, we also could draw 2 cards. Think about it. Think about how broken this idea is, and we're just leaving it on the table. Konami has provided us with protection from Super Poly and Pot of Greed, and we're just scoffing at it. We're like, oh, I don't want to play that. Fuck you. No one sees my vision. No one understands the things that I understand. Mad Reloader. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, send 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard, and if you do, draw 2. Ah, shit. This is a much better way to draw 2 cards. Mirror Resonator. If your opponent controls a face-up monster that was special summoned from the extra deck and you do not, while this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field. Once per turn, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Treat this card's level as that monster's original level if this card is used for a synchro summon this turn. So this is not a very good card, but we do have something recent to talk about involving it. At the time of the recording of this video, the new Fiendsmith archetype is less than 24 hours old. And those cards all revolve around Light Fiends. They have a Link one that requires 1 Light Fiend that actually is pretty good. And then they also have a Searcher that we're gonna have to do one of these videos about that fucking card too. So presently we don't know what the Fiendsmith package in the great undiscovered fiend pile is going to look like, but it is interesting that the only overlap between Nightmare Throne and the Fiendsmith Searcher is this shitty recursive tuner. I'm contractually obligated to mention that you can tune this with the level 6 Fiendsmith to make AFD. Shuffle that back, get the guy, summon you, can make a set. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Numeron Wall. If you control no cards except Numeron Wall, quick effect, send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, activate 1 Numeron Network directly from your hand or deck. When you take battle damage, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, end the battle phase after the damage step. So there's one major problem with searching this with Nightmare Throne. If you have Nightmare Throne, you control cards. Nightmare Throne It searches and then it sticks around. That's the problem. So if you want to search this, he's just another fader. You're not making any noise in the fader community. Just send it to the graveyard afterwards. Who's good? What if you activate Nightmare Throne in the spell and trap zone and try to like play it off as a normal spell? Like just pretend. If anyone calls you on it, like they're a cop. Grave Squirmer. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, target one card on the field, destroy that target. Say it with me, folks. This is the easiest way to pop a card. Really just insane how crazy this glow up was. Steel Swarm Cell. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. While this card is face up on the field, it cannot be tributed except for the tribute summon of a Steel Swarm monster. It cannot be used as a synchro material. I don't care about any of that last part. I don't tribute summon. It is notable though that you can't summon this, summon Beckoning Beast, and then attempt to tribute them for spirit. That like might come up once every 3,000 games. But regardless of the kind of slap on the wrist restriction that maybe mattered back before Xyz monsters existed, the actual relevant part of the effect, which is the free special, is not bad. Like that's actually like, that puts it way above everything else we've seen here, with very few exceptions. I've seen a bit of buzz about this on like some OCG tweets about how this is not a bad option to play as like your 5th or 6th Nightmare Throne target. But honestly, if you want to go Nightmare Throne just to get a free special, probably the best way to do it is to just pop Yubel from deck and summon Yubel. I don't like having to consider a Steel Swarm monster above other options. That's not the natural order. I know we're not used to it, but sometimes Steel Swarms make good points. Heartbreaking, the worst deck you know has decent card. Infernoid Penis. Why the fuck do you guys watch me? Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand by banishing one Infernoid monster from your hand or graveyard, while the total levels and ranks of all effect monsters you control are 8 or lower. Once per turn, you can target one set card on the field, shuffle it into the deck. That card cannot be activated in response to this card's activation. Once per turn, during your opponent's turn, you contribute one monster, then target one card in your opponent's graveyard, banish it. So this isn't even the best level 1 Infernoid. That's a bad sign. That feels so unfair given that like Decatron is the best card in the deck. That's not a fair race. It is neat that it's like Night Beam, but it's so telegraphed, like it's an ignition effect, so you have to summon it. You only have the option of either adding this to hand or sending it to graveyard by destroying it. So I guess if you draw a Peer Mace, you can use the throne to send the second Peer Mace, banish that to summon the one from hand, and then you have Night Beam. But that's so protracted, like, oh my god. And you know, on top of being Night Beam, it also is DD Crow. That's two functions. That's 2 entire things it can do. Alright, and that is true. Nightmare Throne is a face-up card you can kill for original Sinful Spoils. That's not bad. That could be worse. Double Resonator. 2 of them. 2 of them. If this card is normal or special summon, you can target one face-up monster on the field. That target is treated as a tuner this turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Fiend monster you control. That Fiend monster is treated as a tuner this turn. I didn't mention it when we talked about Red Mirror because Red Mirror sucks ass. But these two are, of course, our little crossover with the original Sinful Spoils video because they're level 1 fire monsters. And just like I mentioned in that video, there are, like, some weird lines to make Calamity with this card, but read the Dymax article. Just play Centurion if you want to make Calamity. I am a little bit interested in its ability to banish itself from graveyard to make a Fiend into a tuner, because we're playing a bunch of Fiends. We can make any of them into a tuner. Could even be a boat. Absolute King Backjack. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, excavate the top card of your deck, and if it is a normal trap, set it to your field. Otherwise, send it to the graveyard. That set card can be activated during this turn. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can look at the top 3 cards of your deck, then place them on the top of your deck in any order. So Nightmare Throne does actually set this up. If you just want to resolve Backjack by any means necessary, you do have the ability to go Throne, pop Backjack from deck, Backjack, reorder the top of your deck, and then on your opponent's turn, quick effect, get whatever you put on top to the field and activate it. So I guess between Backjack and Coup Clock, the dream of like Nightmare Throne Labyrinth is realer than I thought it was 30 seconds ago. But there will be no room for trap cards in my perfect fiend world. The fiend link pile will be real, and it will be comprised of monsters, spell cards, and that's it. We don't need trap cards where we're going. Samsara Dick Lotus. Folks, penis. You can tribute this card, special summon one Yubel monster from your deck. During your opponent's turn, when a monster effect is activated while you control a Yubel. Quick effect, you can tribute this card. The activated effect becomes destroy one Yubel monster on the field. During your end phase, if you control Yubel and this card is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand or special summon it. So yeah, here it is, the intended target to end all intended targets. This is pretty much the main starter of the Yubel archetype. No card in the deck more directly does just the one card Yubel combo better than Samsara D Lotus. But it also kind of sucks, right? If it gets Ash, then like, what now? It's not gonna help you anymore. It tried to activate its effect and it failed. If Beckoning Beast gets Ash, then like you still have the extra normal. He's still on the board. He could still be a link material. D Lotus, like, she tributes herself and prays. Lone Fire Blossoms, they don't make them like they used to, you know? In a lot of combos, it's actually just preferable to go Throne Pop Spirit to summon the Yubel, and then use some sort of Reborn effect to summon back the Spirit as your way of resolving Spirit, rather than going through D Lotus at all. But in a hand that is just Nightmare Throne and like 4 non-engine, you're gonna have to go Throne Search D Lotus. And in that case, it'll do its best. It'll get the job done as long as there's no hiccups along the way. If you so much as sneeze on it though, it will break down crying. Umbral Horror Will-O-the-Wisp. When this card is normal or special summon, you can target one Umbral Horror monster you control or in your graveyard except this card. This card's level becomes the current level of that monster. When this attack position card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, destroy the monster that destroyed this card. Alright, so the plan is to crash Unform, summon a second Unform, and Will-O-the-Wisp, copy the level of one of the Unforms. Why didn't we just summon a second Unform? I think this card sucks, guys. Red Blossoms from Underroot. If this card is in your hand, you can target one spell or trap card in each graveyard, banish them, and if you do, special summon this card. You can tribute this card, then target one Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Link monster in either graveyard, banish that target, and if you do, special summon one monster from your graveyard with a different monster card type from that target. So everyone kind of expected this to be like a hand trap when they first revealed the name and the artwork. You know, it had like it's a blossom from somewhere, but instead it has more of like a going second utility effect where you can remove like a spell or trap your opponent has in the graveyard that maybe it has an effect in the graveyard that they were planning on using turn 3. Like the first ones that are coming to mind are like Thunder Dragon Fusion, Orchest Crescendo. Yeah, I started playing in Toss. What do you want from me? And then the other effect lets you like remove one of your opponent's combo pieces that they went through out of the graveyard and then reborn one of your extra deck combo pieces that you've gone through as like an extender. So like you can reborn Yama to trade in this thing for like 2 link material instead of 1. It feels like there's gotta be a really, really specific format for this to be any good at all. Either we've never been in that format or no one has thought about it long enough for it to like come up in conversations about tech cards that can be played. Infernity Pawn. During your draw phase, if you have no cards in your hand, instead of conducting your normal draw, you can banish this card from your graveyard, activate one of these effects, place one Infernity card from your deck on top of your deck, or set one Void spell or trap directly from your deck. I think it's like insanely rude that you have to skip your normal draw, but then instead of just adding the card you want to your hand, it puts it on top of your deck. Like, hey, what happened to your draw phase? You were supposed to draw that. So the much more relevant part of this is setting a Void spell or trap from deck, which, if you don't know this, Infernity shares its spell and trap archetype with Infernoid, just in case you wanted to make it 10 times more confusing to discern between these two decks that are completely different and have never once been mixed in any capacity. There is like one Void spell that I think is pretty good generically, that's Void Apocalypse. Just discards a card to mill a fiend monster. It's still not very good. You still much rather have a draw phase and then hopefully use some of your other cards for like, to like then get whatever advantage you would get from setting a Void spell or trap. But yeah, this card's pretty cool. You can like get some of the Yubels that are bricking up your hand into the graveyard and then mill like a Squirmer. That's pretty good. Obviously, like, I'd prefer to have this on turn 1 instead of turn 4. But I don't know. This is the first card we've seen so far that's interacted with it. Maybe we gotta pay some respect to the pawn. Cloudian Ghost Fog. Cannot be special summoned. Awesome. Neither player takes battle damage from attacks involving this card. If this card is destroyed by battle, distribute fog counters equal to the level of the monster that destroyed it among face-up monsters. Imagine like this video is your first interaction with Yu-Gi-Oh! And like you kind of understand most of what's going on so far. And then an ominous fog rolls in. Like this is the first time you've ever heard of fog counters. You don't know what the fuck this thing's talking about. It's just this new mechanic that you're like, did I miss something in the rulebook? What's fog? What is it doing to me? Infernity Avenger. When a monster you control except Infernity Avenger is destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster and sent to the graveyard, while you have no cards in your hand, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. In that case, the level of this card is equal to the level of your destroyed monster. Folks, in that case, real problem-solving card text. One thing that Yubel is very notable for is being destroyed by battle. That happens to them all the time. Like this happened to my buddy Eric. And finally, Infernity Mirage. Cannot be special summoned from the graveyard. If you have no cards in your hand, you contribute this card, then target 2 Infernity monsters in your graveyard, special summon them. You know, we do got 2 Infernity monsters. I'm not saying nothing, but we do got 2 of those. So that concludes our Nightmare Throne target review session. Let's see if we can do some sort of order here. I guess like you're number 1, probably you number 2. Where's Squirmer? Squirmer's 3. You, and then I guess you're right behind it, but kind of. For the more experimental ones, Tricorn, Cap Shell, not really a very good target, but a very good card within these parameters that maybe we're going to be thinking about. Where's Kepler? Kepler, you're up there. You're definitely... You and Copernicus, you're not going to be in Yubel, but you are good search targets for Nightmare Throne conceptually. Yeah, then kind of everything else. Pretty much everything else. DD cards would be above Cap Shell. Okay, but he didn't even really need to be here because you're not searching him with Nightmare Throne, but like... in terms of like good cards in the Yubel, I'm putting him up there more as a formality. He's not actually he doesn't actually have anything to do with Nightmare Throne. Oh, and then you're probably like here. Yeah, it's like these ones and then everything else. Doom Donut's number 1.